Michael Turner always believed he had plenty of time. He lived in a small town in Ohio, working as a delivery driver for a local shipping company. His life wasn't anything extraordinary each day. Started at 6 a.m., a cup of black coffee, a quick vehicle check, then hours on familiar roads. Quiet neighborhoods, houses with white fences, and the same customers over and over again slowly blurred into the background, like a film stuck on repeat. There was one thing Michael kept ignoring. It wasn't his job. It wasn't money. It was something smaller, yet far more important. Every evening, when he got home to his modest house, he would notice a few missed calls on his phone. Sometimes they were from his mother Linda Turner, who lived alone in the suburbs about an hour away. Sometimes it was just a short message. "I just wanted to hear your voice." Michael would read it, and leave it there. He told himself, "I'll call her back tomorrow." But tomorrow always came with new deliveries, new routes, and the same familiar excuses. He didn't hate his mother. He wasn't heartless. He just thought everything would always be there. That his mother would always be there. That the calls could wait. That love didn't need to be rushed. Until one day, his phone rang again. But this time, it wasn't his mother. And that was the moment everything began to change. What time are you listening to this story? Where are you right now? The next morning started just like any other. Michael woke up before the sun had fully risen, the faint gray light slipping through the blinds in his bedroom. He reached for his phone out of habit, squinting at the screen. No new messages, no missed calls. Just the usual notifications, weather updates, work reminders, a few promotions he didn't bother opening. He paused for a second. For some reason, he thought about his mother, Linda Turner. He remembered the message she had sent the night before. "I just wanted to hear your voice." Michael exhaled slowly, rubbing his face. "I'll call her tonight," he muttered to himself, tossing the phone onto the bed. He got dressed, grabbed his keys, and headed out. The morning air in Ohio was crisp, carrying that quiet stillness that only small towns seem to have. As he drove to the warehouse, the radio played softly in the background, a country song he had heard too many times to count. At the warehouse, everything was predictable. Kevin, his coworker, was already there, sipping coffee and leaning against a stack of boxes. "Kevin, morning man, you look half asleep." Michael smirked, slightly. "Michael." Same as always. They didn't talk much after that. There wasn't much to say. Their days were built on routine, not conversation. Michael loaded his truck, scanning packages, checking addresses, stacking boxes with practiced movements. It was the kind of work you could do without thinking, and maybe that was why he liked it. No pressure. No surprises. Just movement. Just time passing. As he drove through the neighborhoods, dropping off packages one by one, he noticed the little things he usually ignored. An elderly man watering his lawn, a young mother helping her child onto a school bus, a couple arguing quietly on their porch. Life happening everywhere. And somehow, it all felt distant. Around noon, Michael stopped at a gas station to grab a sandwich. He sat alone in his truck, engine off, chewing slowly while staring out at the empty road ahead. Without really thinking, he picked up his phone. He scrolled through his contacts. Mom. His thumb hovered over the call button. For a moment, he almost pressed it. But then, his phone buzzed a work notification, reminding him of a delayed delivery. Michael sighed, locked his phone, and set it aside. "Later," he whispered. That word again. Later. By the time the sun began to set, Michael was exhausted. His back ached, his hands felt heavy, and his mind was already drifting toward the comfort of his couch. When he got home, he dropped his keys on the table, kicked off his shoes, and collapsed onto the sofa. The house was quiet, too quiet. He stared at the ceiling for a while, not really thinking about anything. Then, almost automatically, he reached for the remote and turned on the TV. The sound filled the room, drowning out the silence. Hours passed like that. At some point, his phone lit up on the table. A call. He glanced at it from across the room. For a brief second, he thought it might be her. But he didn't get up. The phone stopped ringing. And Michael stayed where he was. Later that night, as he finally got into bed, he picked up his phone again. No new messages. No new calls. He stared at the screen a little longer than usual. A strange feeling crept in, something he couldn't quite name. Not guilt. Not yet. Just a quiet discomfort. Like something important was slipping through his fingers. And he didn't even realize it. He turned off the phone, placed it on the nightstand, and closed his eyes. Tomorrow, he told himself, would be different. But tomorrow had said that before. The call came the next day. It was late afternoon, and Michael had just finished his last delivery. The sky was turning a dull orange, the kind that usually made the town feel calm. But that day, something felt off. His phone rang while he was sitting in the truck. Unknown number. He almost ignored it. But something, a quiet instinct he couldn't explain, made him pick up. Michael. Hello? There was a brief pause on the other end. Then a woman's voice, calm but unfamiliar. Amanda. Hi. Is this Michael Turner? Michael frowned slightly. Michael? Yeah. Who is this? Another pause. This one heavier. Amanda. This is Amanda. I'm a nurse at St. Mary's Hospital. I'm calling about your mother, Linda Turner. Everything inside Michael seemed to stop. The sounds around him, the distant traffic, the rustling wind, faded into nothing. Michael, what about her? Amanda's voice softened. Amanda. She was admitted earlier today. A neighbor found her unconscious at home. Michael's grip tightened on the phone. Unconscious. The word echoed in his head like something unreal. Michael, is she okay? Amanda hesitated, just long enough to make his chest tighten. Amanda, she's stable right now. But you should come as soon as you can. The call ended shortly after that. No long explanations. No details. Just a simple sentence that carried more weight than anything Michael had heard in years. You should come as soon as you can. Michael didn't remember starting the engine. He didn't remember pulling out of the parking lot. All he knew was that he was driving faster than usual, hands gripping the wheel, heart pounding in a way that made it hard to breathe. For the first time in a long time, he wasn't thinking about tomorrow. He wasn't thinking about work. He wasn't thinking about anything except one thing. Why didn't I call her? The question kept repeating. Again, and again, and again. The road felt longer than ever before. Every red light felt like an obstacle. Every second felt wasted. When he finally arrived at the hospital, the sky had already gone dark. The building stood quiet, under the dim lights, cold and distant. Michael rushed inside, his steps uneven, his breath shallow. At the front desk, a middle-aged man looked up. Receptionist, can I help you? Michael swallowed. Michael, I'm here for Linda Turner, my mom. The man typed something into the computer, then nodded. Receptionist, room 214, second floor. Michael didn't wait for anything else. He moved quickly down the hallway, the sterile smell of the hospital hitting him all at once. The sound of distant monitors, quiet footsteps, low voices, everything felt overwhelming. When he reached room 214, he stopped. His hand hovered over the door. For a moment, he couldn't move. All those missed calls, all those messages, all those tomorrows. They were all standing right there with him now. He slowly pushed the door open. Inside, the room was dimly lit. Linda lay on the bed, small, fragile, almost unrecognizable. Machines surrounded her, their soft beeping breaking the silence. Michael stepped closer, his chest tightening with every step. This was his mother. But somehow, she looked like a stranger. He pulled a chair closer and sat down, eyes fixed on her face. For the first time in years, there was no distraction. No TV. No work. No excuse. Just him. And the consequences of everything he had ignored. Michael reached out slowly, taking her hand. It felt colder than he expected. Michael, whispering, "Hey, Mom, it's me." His voice cracked slightly. Michael, I was gonna call you. The words sounded empty the moment they left his mouth. Because, deep down, he knew they weren't true. Or at least, not true enough. The machines continued their quiet rhythm. And for the first time, Michael truly felt what silence meant. Michael didn't know how long he had been sitting there. Minutes. Maybe hours. Time inside that hospital room felt different, slower, heavier, like every second was forcing him to feel something he had spent years avoiding. Linda still hadn't woken up. Her breathing was steady, supported by the quiet rhythm of the machines beside her. But there was no movement, no sign that she knew he was there. Michael leaned back in the chair, eyes still fixed on her face. And for the first time in a long time, memories began to surface. Not the big ones, not birthdays or holidays, but the small, ordinary moments, the ones he never thought mattered. He remembered being a kid, sitting at the kitchen table while his mom packed his lunch. "Linda, don't forget to eat your apple, Michael." He used to roll his eyes back then. Now, he would give anything to hear that again. He remembered the nights she stayed up late, waiting for him to come home when he was a teenager. The way she always pretended she just couldn't sleep, even though they both knew the truth. And then, the more recent memories. The missed calls, the short messages, the quiet attempts she made, just to stay connected. Michael reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. His hands felt heavier now. He opened their message thread. There they were. Dozens of messages. Short, simple, but full of something he had never really stopped to notice before. "Did you eat today? Drive safe. I saw something that reminded me of you. I just wanted to hear your voice." Michael swallowed hard. His chest tightened. How had he not seen it? How had he not felt it? All this time, she wasn't asking for much. Not money. Not time. Just a few minutes. Just his voice. Michael rubbed his eyes, trying to push back the pressure building inside him. "Michael," whispering, "I thought we had time." His voice broke. "Michael, I thought you'd always be there." The words hung in the air, unanswered. A soft knock came from the door. Amanda, the nurse, stepped in quietly. "Amanda, hey. How are you holding up?" Michael didn't look at her right away. "Michael, I should have called her." It wasn't a question. It wasn't even a statement. It was a realization. Amanda walked a little closer, her voice gentle. "Amanda, you're here now. That matters." Michael shook his head slightly. "Michael, does it?" That question didn't have an easy answer. Amanda didn't respond immediately. Because sometimes, the truth isn't something you can soften. Michael looked back at his mom. For the first time, fear truly settled in. Not the kind of fear you feel in the moment, but the kind that lingers. The kind that whispers, "What if you don't get another chance?" He leaned forward, holding her hand a little tighter now. "Michael, Mom, if you can hear me." He paused, struggling to find the words he had never taken the time to say. "Michael, I'm here." Another pause. Longer this time. "Michael, I'm not going anywhere." The room remained quiet. But something inside him had already changed. For years, Michael had been running on autopilot, believing that life would wait for him to catch up. That relationships could be paused. That love could be delayed. But sitting there, in that quiet hospital room, he finally understood something he had ignored for far too long. Some things don't wait. Some moments don't come back. And sometimes, you don't realize what truly matters until you're about to lose it. That night, Michael didn't go home. He stayed, sitting in that same chair beside his mother's bed, listening to the steady beeping of the machines, watching every small movement as if looking away for even a second might cost him something he could never get back. For the first time in years, he had nowhere else to be. No deliveries. No distractions. No later. Just now. Around midnight, the hospital grew quieter. The footsteps in the hallway became less frequent, the voices softer, the lights dimmer. It felt like the entire world had slowed down, forcing Michael to sit with his thoughts. And that was the hardest part. Because now, there was nothing to run from. He looked at his mom again. Her face looked tired, but peaceful in a way he hadn't noticed before. The lines on her forehead, the slight gray in her hair, all the signs of time passing that he had never truly paid attention to. When had she gotten older? When had things changed? Or maybe, they always had. He was just too busy to notice. Michael leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. "Michael," softly, "I used to think I was busy." He let out a quiet, almost bitter smile. "Michael, but I wasn't. I was just distracted." That realization sat heavily in his chest, not because it was dramatic, but because it was true. The next morning, Amanda returned with a small update. "Amanda, she's responding a little more today. It's a good sign." Michael nodded, but didn't say much. Hope felt unfamiliar to him now. Careful. Fragile. Later that day, something small happened. But for Michael, it meant everything. As he sat there holding his mother's hand, he felt a faint movement. At first, he thought he imagined it. But then, it happened again. A slight squeeze. Weak, but real. Michael straightened up immediately. "Michael, Mum?" His voice was shaky now. He leaned closer. "Michael, hey, I'm here." Linda's eyes didn't fully open. but her fingers moved again just enough to let him know she wasn't completely gone. Michael felt something rise in his chest, something he hadn't felt in a long time. Not relief. Not yet. But a second chance. And this time, he didn't want to waste it. The days that followed were different. Michael didn't go back to work right away. He called his manager, explained the situation, and for once, he didn't worry about falling behind. Because for the first time, he knew exactly what mattered. He stayed at the hospital, talked to his mom, even when she couldn't fully respond. He told her about his day, about the routes he used to drive, about the stupid things Kevin would say at work, about the things he should have said a long time ago. "Michael, I'm sorry, Mom." The words came out quietly one evening. "Michael, I don't know why I thought I had more time." He paused, swallowing the weight in his throat. "Michael, but I'm here now." And this time, it wasn't just something he said, it was something he meant. Slowly, Linda began to recover. Small steps, opening her eyes for a few seconds. A faint smile, a whisper that barely formed words. But each moment felt bigger than anything Michael had experienced before. Because now, he was paying attention, really paying attention. Not just to her, but to everything. The way the sunlight came through the hospital window in the morning, the sound of her breathing becoming steadier, the feeling of her hand getting warmer each day. These were things he would have missed before. Things he did miss before, but not anymore. Because something inside him had shifted. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but deeply. Michael no longer thought about later. He thought about now. And for the first time in years, that felt like enough. A few weeks later, Michael finally drove home again. The same road, the same small town, the same quiet neighborhoods. But somehow, everything felt different. The world hadn't changed. He had. Linda was no longer in the hospital. She was back at home, still recovering, still needing care, but she was there. And now, Michael made that 1-hour drive every single day. Not because he had to, but because he chose to. Every morning, he still woke up early, still made his coffee, still drove familiar roads. But now, there was something new in his routine. He called his mom. Sometimes, just for 5 minutes. Sometimes longer. Sometimes, they didn't even say much. "Linda, did you eat yet?" Michael smiling. "Yeah, Mom, I did." Simple conversation. The kind he used to ignore. The kind he now understood were everything. At work, Kevin noticed the change. "Kevin, you seem different lately." Michael shrugged lightly. "Michael, yeah, I think I just stopped waiting." Kevin frowned. "Kevin, waiting for what?" Michael paused for a moment, then answered quietly. "Michael, for the right time." Because now he knew. There is no right time. There is only time, and whether you use it or waste it. Some evenings, Michael would sit on his mother's porch, watching the sunset with her. No phones, no distractions, just silence, but a comfortable kind this time. Not empty, not distant, but full. Full of presence, full of meaning. One evening, as the sky turned orange and the air grew cooler, Linda looked at him and smiled gently. "Linda, I like hearing your voice again." Michael didn't answer right away. He just nodded, holding on to that moment. Because now, he understood its value. And he wasn't going to let it slip away again. Life didn't suddenly become perfect. There were still long days. Still stress. Still responsibilities. But something inside Michael had grounded him. He no longer measured his life by how busy he was, but by what he didn't ignore anymore. Because in the end, it's not the big moments that define us. It's the small ones we choose to show up for. The calls we return. The people we make time for. The words we don't delay. Michael almost learned that lesson too late. But not completely. And sometimes, that small window is all we get. If this story made you think about someone in your life, maybe, don't wait. Pick up your phone. Make that call. Because, later, is a promise that life doesn't always keep. If you found this story meaningful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts. When was the last time you called someone who truly matters to you?